Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Magic. I am Gene FitzMagic, joined as always by my late night company, Piano Rob. What's up, my man?
How you doing, Gene? What's going on?
You know, I am super excited because our guest today, I am like fanboying a little bit, man, and he kind of gave me a rough time in the green room before we got on. So I don't know what to expect. I do that to people.
He's because he I know that's how you act, and you can't and you just can't take that humor back at you, which I'm enjoying already. We haven't even gotten into the show yet. I'm so happy.
I'm excited to have it. Now, for anyone who's wondering who we're talking about, the incomparable Kevin Pollak is in the house, and I mean the list. I mean his resume is uber long. Most recently, the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon, fantastic show.
Miss isn't it Maisel?
Miss Maisel. I said Maisel.
You're getting nervous already. You didn't even say Maisel right, Gene.
Maisel.
Gene,
I was trying to say it fancy.
You got to take a deep breath. And I said, I mean, obviously, this is somebody who has so many accolades. You could spend the whole show just listing everything, which I don't want to do. We want to find out. We want to talk to the person himself.
Yes, we do. So you know what? Let's get right into our commercial break. We're not even gonna banter too much. Let's get right into our commercial break, and when we come back, Kevin Pollak.
Do you hate yourself and your family, but hate haircuts even more? Introducing the Flowbee Precision Haircutting System. Get that freshly sucked hair you've always dreamed of without leaving the house. You can suck your whole family, mom, sister, and watch Uncle Steve suck himself. Looking good, Steve. The Flowbee Precision Home Haircutting System. We suck, so you don't have to.
Everybody, please, let's welcome Kevin Pollak. Hello.
When you say everybody, who do you think you're talking to, really?
I would love to think my mom's watching, but she's probably not watching.
Right.
I want to be honest. She's probably not watching. But we're here, so there's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How you doing, Mr. Pollak?
Kicking life square in the nuts. Thanks for asking. How about
yourself? I love it. Today's a good day. It was a good day up until 10 minutes ago when you were mean to me. But I'll be fat.
He was not mean to you. You can't start an interview like that. Nobody was.
I was just joking.
And saw. You're supposed to be a professional, Gene. You're supposed to be a professional. Sorry, Mr.
Well, that
Pollak.
ship sailed 9 months ago.
Yeah, no, it's all fine. Let's put backstage pass behind us where it belongs. Let's move forward.
Fair enough. Let's start fresh, as you say.
There we go. You say there's no editing, right? This show is not going to be edited.
It's not edited, man. Just be yourself and have some fun, man.
It's not. That's not the concern. Have you thought about editing it?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, let's get right into it.
You?
Well, let's start right from the beginning. You grew up in the Bay Area. You started off as as everyone knows, a stand-up comic. As a child, were you like the class clown at school, or did like that sense of humor kind of develop later? I know you became a professional stand-up at 18.
I was the class clown. As there's a word for it when you're in the yearbook, the senior yearbook. It's not notables. There's some other word that they best dressed, or anyways, I was class clown as listed in the high school yearbook. Yeah.
And so when did you decide to take that like to a professional level, start doing the stand up, and how did that go from just being like a funny guy into saying, let me get on stage and try this?
I thought about it when I was about 10.
Wow, that early.
I remember going to my mom, and there was no show business in my family. It was not a normal thing for the 10-year-old to say, I'm going to have to change my name, Mom. It's Pollak's a little too clunky. Her maiden name was Klein, so I was almost Kevin Klein. I wanted to be Kevin Klein, especially when he married Phoebe Cates, but that's a whole other story.
So what was it like getting on stage the first time? Like, was there, obviously, I'm sure there was nerves, but where were you when you finally had that, you know what, I got something here. This is what I do.
Yeah, it's been so long. Of course, I couldn't possibly remember exactly how I felt, but I can tell you I've never been nervous getting on stage.
Really?
I've been probably more comfortable in just about any setting on stage than anywhere else in life. Now, there have been situations on stage that became uncomfortable rather quickly, but the idea of being backstage or in the wings or wherever the hell you find yourself while some genius is introducing you, that was never nerve-wracking. That was an excitement that, like, Christmas morning kind of thing.
Nice. I get that. And HBO obviously in the '90s, I think, was such a big part of stand-up comedy. Right, they had Def Comedy Jam. They had a tremendous, legendary comedy specials. You had one with Stop with the Kicking. Back was, I think, 91, 92 in that early '90s.
Yeah.
So many classic specials they had, and plus another thing too. I didn't even realize this. Comedy Central lists you as one of the top 100 comedians of all time. What is that like to know? I mean, of all the comedians in the existence of life, to be one of the top 100, what does that feel like?
Well, first of all, that title and $7 to get me a coffee at Starbucks. It's, it sounds good in your introduction. People say, "How do you want me to introduce you?" And it's what's interesting about that conversation for a stand-up comedian throughout your entire life. It begins with fake it till you make it. So whatever possible nugget you can put into your introduction to get the audience's attention, to earn you even a shred of respect before you go on stage, just to shut them up really in the beginning. Because when they don't know you, they're rooting for you technically just because they don't want to feel uncomfortable. Please don't suck is kind of the overall feeling. So if you can build something into the introduction, so whatever the talk show appearance was that he's been on this show, he's been on that, that tradition has gone on forever and ever. So once you become known, then it's which credit do you put into the introduction? Which one, so then I started to realize, well, you mentioned the last HBO special. Technically I did too, but the last one, the big 1 hour special was in fact around the same time as A Few Good Men came out. And I'd been doing stand-up for already a dozen plus years. So when A Few Good Men came out, however people discover you is how they know you. And that movie was just such a juggernaut. It's how most people were introduced to me, and it sort of shit on 15 years of stand-up that I'd worked so hard on, because suddenly everyone just knew me from this movie, which again was fantastic. I went from auditioning to getting offers. So for an actor's standpoint, it was beyond dreams come true. But for the stand-up comedian that worked his ass off for so long, it really was kind of brutal. So I needed to remind people in my introduction for the last 30 years, you should probably mention that Comedy Central named me as one of the top 100 comedians of all time, because you talk to anyone who grew up like you guys probably did, knowing me in the 90s, you had to be told by someone, he's also a stand-up comedian. It wasn't as obvious or known. So that top 100 comedians of all time, long answer to short question, has been a part of the introduction for quite a while, just to remind people of where I came.
So
it's funny because like you said that, because like I basically grew up 90s is when I started remembering things, and for me, Grumpy Old Men and House Arrest are the first. Those are the first two things I consciously remember seeing you in. And I watched those movies at that age. That's the age you don't watch a movie once, you watch it 800 times every night, because they're comfort movies too.
Sure.
So it is interesting. Do you prefer acting or stand up one over the other?
I prefer to not have to choose, just because they supply such madly different joys and celebrations and achievements, and stand-up comedy is my first love. It'll always be my first love. Like I said, it's where I'm probably way more comfortable. I still feel a little bit of a poser because I never had any formal training as an actor. I mean, I've done a few movies. I don't know the exact number, 92, but I will say that some of them are quite good. 6 of them are quite good. But
I would say more, but
yeah, I mean, it is weird that I do consider myself a comedian, even though I've done way more acting in the last 20 years than stand-up comedy.
Well, and where did that? I know because you started delving in like your mid-20s into focusing on acting. What was it that made you say, "Hey, you know what? Let me start looking into not just doing stand-up, but getting into the acting community"? What made that transition happen?
Yeah, I don't know. As much as I loved stand-up, it's where I sort of found my comfort zone in terms of, oh Jesus, I can do this, and you only know that based on people's response. You know, I remember when I really started professionally performing when I was about 19, 20. So I remember getting on stage when I was 20, and whoever the biggest act in San Francisco where I started was at the time had seen me perform that night, and afterwards he was kind enough to come up and be very supportive. But what he said that stuck with me all these years was, when I was 20, he said, watching your act, you know, when your material catches up with your stage presence, you're going to be a power to be reckoned with, which was kind of an ass backwards compliment and a bit of a wake-up call of, yeah, you're as comfortable on stage as you think you are, but you don't have an act yet. So you really need to come up with an act. So yeah, I guess I had the swagger before the material.
Yeah.
I know, and I love that. And so, and you've worked with so many tremendous actors and actresses. Was there anyone when branching over into the acting world, were there any actresses that kind of like took you under the wing, showed you what it's like to be on set, and showed you some of the difference from coming from the stand-up comedy world?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and also to answer your question, which I sort of prefer, and then I went off on the tangent about being told when
it's your show, all the tangents you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You don't want to tell someone my age. You can you can digress as much as you need to. I mean, look, the acting really started because it was a fantasy. I think the question was, how did you decide in your 20s to steer that way? It was always a fantasy, and my mom told me when I was 5 or 6 years old, and she would take me to see a movie, whatever the movie was. I would come out of the movie as one of the characters in the film, not necessarily doing an impersonation of the actor, which later became a staple in my stand-up act, but I was just possessed by whatever character caught my attention. And maybe a lot of people have this or have been told they had it as a child. But so I think that was really being swept away by a performance, and then that stayed with me throughout my life, where if an actor or actress was so talented and riveting and compelling in their performance, it just took me away from life and, you know, the great escape into whatever entertainment can provide. But it was really those performances. So somewhere in my brain, it was, you know, a fantasy was born that I could also do that. And then, so why that wouldn't lead to me seeking out formal training is anyone's guess. My only answer there would be I hated school so fucking much that the idea of sitting in a class and being taught how to act just sounded not something that was going to work for me.
To be fair, I feel like you've done okay without it anyway, right? I mean, you've done okay. I don't think
well, that goes back to your question: who took me under their wing? You know, when I started out, because if I didn't have that, I was really in trouble. But I knew that I didn't know anything about acting, so I was quite the student. And I guess I also learned acting by doing impersonations, right? So I was self-aware enough to know that when I was learning to do impersonations, I was using a lot of tools that an actor would use in class or for an audition, which is to build the many physical and vocal attributes of any character. So I didn't just do William Shatner as a busboy. You know, the idea was to capture all the ridiculousness that was his early acting on Star Trek. You know, not just the pausing for no apparent reason, but just the way he physically carried himself. And so, again, I think without realizing it or being told, I was self-teaching how to build character, how to create
Yeah.
and acting choices.
Well, and let's be honest. I know Gene's not going to understand this, but when you're a creative person, sorry, Gene. I didn't mean.
It's that day today.
But it's that balance between how much training you want versus how much you want to create yourself, because there's so much that's going to come out of you or any creative person. You don't want to feel like you're also getting swept up in a method or a way of things because you're creative. It's how much of that do you need to help harness your creativity, and how much don't you need of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage everyone to find mentors and find working, whether it's music or comedy or acting or whatever the art form is. Find someone who's doing it and doing it well to be a mentor. I know that sounds like pie in the sky to a lot of people. How do you find that mentor? But I would seek them out because they do make such a big difference in your understanding. The classroom structure, if you're good at school and it appeals to you to learn from a professional in that setting, then of course follow that with your passion. That's a great way for natural students. I just wasn't that. The teachers when I was a student were just bored, so they and the couple that weren't bored, that were enthusiastic, were my favorite classes. So yeah, the idea of going to an acting class and being taught by an unemployed actor didn't sound like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's true too. There's a couple of fields in life. I think about that with golf instructor a lot. Like you're teaching somebody how to play golf, but you're also not good enough to be on the tour. That's what you would be doing. That would be in most cases, that would be your dream. So it's funny in something like acting, and I'm sure there's some retired actors that teach for fun and just love of it. And I'm sure those are the ones that are probably even better teachers in most cases.
Yeah. By the way, that's probably me in like 3 years.
That's it.
No. In fact, I got an idea for you what you could do in 3 years if you want to retire from acting. You could be my mentor. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I don't need to retire to be your mentor, Gene.
Well, I'm just saying you're going to probably need a lot of time. I'm going to have a lot of phone calls, a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's all fine. I'm going to need a lot of money.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, mentor for sale. That'll be the name of my class.
Mentor.
There you go. You know what? So who would you say
Take a breath, Gene.
Yeah, Gene. I
three-part question.
Kevin, I've never seen him this.
No, I can tell. I can tell.
How excited? Listen,
by Rob's reaction, this is not the norm. So you don't need to apologize, Gene. It's flattering for you to be completely losing your mind.
Let me say this, Rob.
Last week he calls me and goes, Rob, you're not going to believe this. We might have Kevin Pollak on the show. I'm like, that's great. That's great. He's been a terrific actor. That would be fantastic. Gene's like, do you know who he is? I'm like, of course I know who he is, Gene. But we do this show with a lot of people. He's going to be an awesome person to sit down and chat with. And he's turning as red as his beard the whole week. I'm like, just take a breath.
I am so, because again, and Rob, listen, he's teasing me now. But one thing, I don't fanboy, right? Rob, I'm pretty good at. I never fanboy, but I am such a fan of the like. I was with my wife. My wife doesn't know you from stand up because she's a little bit younger, but she knows you from Santa Claus 2, Casino.
Sure.
I like that you started with Santa Claus 2.
I'll bet she knows me from She's All That, the Freddie Prinze.
And She's All That, which is a Rob classic. So when I told her what I was telling her, I was like, and I was telling her all the other work, the impressions, and I couldn't. When you have that brain fart, that brain cramp, I couldn't think of Christopher Walken's name. I had him in my face. I just couldn't. I couldn't. The name was escaping me. So I'm trying to he does it better than the guy himself. And I was like, what's his name? The guy, he's in Man on Fire. He plays Denzel's best friend on Man on Fire. She goes, Angelina Jolie's dad? I'm like, not John Voight. What are you talking about? And then it came to Christopher Walken. He does Christopher Walken better than Christopher Walken. But the whole time she thinks Christopher Walken is John Voight this whole time.
Wait, the point of this story was for you to get to that?
Yeah, I don't know.
The point of this story?
I feel more comfortable now that I got to make fun of my wife. I feel more comfortable.
Gene, look at your ask the next question on your sheet.
Let's go. Let's
Ready? Get back on track.
Three-part question. You worked with everybody, but for an actor, an actress, and a director that you might not have worked with yet, who would be that dream situation as an actor you never worked with that you'd love to, actress and director?
The director I haven't worked with that I'm about to work with, actually, is Steven Soderbergh. I can't say too much about it, I don't suppose, but he's someone I've always admired greatly, and weirdly, I'm about to work with him. So that's phenomenal. Actor, it's interesting. As a character actor, I'm always impressed when very, very famous, revered movie stars, genuine movie stars, seem more like a character actor in their choices of roles. And I think a great example of that is actually Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I think their character work as movie stars is incredible. They're diverse. If you think about, the body of their work, they don't try to be Mr. Charming that often in terms of a leading man and what a movie star used to be, right? Where they kind of play variations of themselves. These guys are doing incredible character work. So either one of them I would love to work with, because I have such admiration for them, and not because they're movie stars, but rather their character actor work. Like Brad, both of them, they're just ridiculously diverse in their acting choices, which is why, again, I'm going back because I'm older, but Jeff Bridges is probably the most diverse actor of the last 50 years. I think he's one of the all-time greats. I would love to work with him. And then actress, probably along the same lines of those great actresses who do, who make very specific choices that kind of make them character actors as opposed to famous actors.
And let's be honest. I mean, of that variety is I think what a lot of good actors aspire to have in your creativity. So the fact that they're playing such different roles and doing it so well.
Yeah, exactly. Kate Blanchett comes to mind. She's a real character actress who's a movie star. Yeah.
Yes.
So is there a role that maybe you've passed on that you look back on like, oh, why did I pass on that? Or in the same follow-up, is there a role that you may have passed on that you say, thank God I passed on that role?
Yeah, I mean, this question comes up, and I remember an answer an actor gave a very, very long time ago. He said, when asked that question, I thought about it, and if I took every role that I passed up and I passed up every role that I took, where I'd be right now? Right where I am. The truth is, I did sort of drop in there that after A Few Good Men, I started getting offers instead of having to audition. And for any actor, that's kind of Valhalla. It's the ultimate place to be, because auditioning, as I wrote about in my book called How I Slept My Way to the Middle, is really it's almost a practice to learn how to audition. It's designed to fail as a device, the audition. When I've directed, I pick up the phone and call people and ask them to be in it, because when an actor comes into audition, much like Gene, they are just a bag of nerves, and they know they have 3 minutes to get the job, and they put so much pressure on themselves versus an actor who has been offered a part. They show up to set with all the confidence in the world because they've been given this thing. And so I'm not saying every actor should therefore not have to audition, but think about how diametrically opposed those two abilities to perform. So the audition itself puts you at your worst, and you're supposed to come in and impress me for 3 minutes. How you're going to, it tells me nothing about how you're going to be on the set. It tells me nothing about. So usually a great director who I've learned from, and then I do it as a director, when the person comes in, I'll just talk to him for 3 to 5 minutes, and then maybe we'll do the scene, because I just want to know who the hell I'm dealing with here when we get to set. What's this person going to be like?
Yeah.
You know?
Kevin, you know what's amazing about that is we've had so many actors on this show, and most of them are in very early stages of their career, and I truly hope many of them make it as far as you have. And it's crazy to see this from the other side, because so many of them talk about, one guy went for Walking Dead, 15 auditions before he got it. And he never heard anything after the audition. So he doesn't know if he was doing good, doing bad.
Yeah.
And, to the point that, and most of them, as I'm sure you had to, maybe at some point, they had to put on this thick skin of do the audition and forget about it, because because you can't be waiting on every call, because they're not going to come. So to hear it from this side and that appreciation, because you've been on the acting side, so you know what it feels like.
Right.
I mean, that's honestly just incredible to hear. And I'm sure that's one of the things that makes you a great director as well, because that eye for detail and caring matters in that case.
Yeah.
You said it well, very well articulated. I mean, it is exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that I haven't said anything articulate yet, but I still have a few more minutes. So I'm going to try.
You didn't even say you didn't even say
the word right. So let's you know what? Let's talk about some of the impressions too that you do. I mean, like, the list is like tremendous. What would you say? A couple of questions about, like, what would you say is the one that you feel like you do the best? Which is your favorite one to do?
It's interesting, because it's definitely changed over the years. But for the last probably 10 years, I would have to say Christopher Walken, just because he's such an abstract thinker, or appears to be, that to be inside that mindset is pretty enjoyable, because you get to be a crazy person for a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
or think like what you think a crazy person thinks like. So I could probably, I definitely, listen, it's the most pedestrian impersonation, and has been for the last 15 years or so, to the point where if you Google Christopher Walken impersonation, sometimes 30 to 60,000 answers on Google search come up. There are 5 pages on YouTube dedicated to Asians doing Christopher Walken, and they're fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So to be number one on that search, again, much like the Comedy Central Top 100 Comedians of All Time, you'll need an additional $7 to get a coffee at Starbucks. Yeah. It's a pretty lame brag, but I think I found in the impersonation a place of comfort that I could improvise as him. And I used to say to people, which I am now potentially regretfully saying to you, Gene, you can ask me any question as Christopher Walken. Just keep in mind that all of his thoughts are completely disconnected.
Understood. So out of all the impressions that you do, which would you say is the one that is like that took you the longest to get down? Like, from when you first came up with the idea to do it to like where you actually got it and perfected it. Which was the one that you thought was hardest?
They sort of tumble out, and it's sort of like a discovery. So it's not like I'm sitting home at a desk creating flies for fly fishing. It's there's not a lot of hard work that goes into it. They sort of tumble out, and I just sort of realize, oh shit, I guess I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that comes to mind was I'd been sent to the store to get groceries, and as a man, I'd not written down the list. So as I'm driving to the store, I'm trying to remember the items, because I don't want to fuck it up. I'm gonna fuck it up, but I don't want to. And so I'm trying to remember the items, and one of the items pops into my mind, and inexplicably, I look into the rearview mirror and say the item as Liam Neeson. Now, I'd never thought to impersonate him prior to this moment, so I truly can't explain how and why this happened. But I was driving, I remembered the food item, I looked in the rearview mirror and said, "Bananas." Now, I don't think I've ever heard him say bananas in a movie. He probably has.
Yeah.
But then all I could do was picture him at an IHOP, what would you like on your waffle, Mr. Neeson? Bananas. I will find you, So there, that just sort of tumbled out.
Yeah.
The only one I sort of really worked at that I can teach you to do is Jason Statham.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I mentioned that book I wrote, I was on the morning talk show tour with the book, promoting. And I was following Jason Statham on all these talk shows. He'd be the first guest, I'd be the second guest, because he had a new movie out. Because he hadn't had a new movie out in 6 weeks. So
I was gonna say Transporter 16, probably.
yeah. So
this is back in like 09-ish, right? I believe the book came out like late 2000s, right?
Probably 10 years.
Okay.
And so he would come on, and then invariably the host or hostess would ask me when I came on, Jason Statham was just here. Do you impersonate Jason Statham? I know you do voices, because he has such a distinct voice. So I realized after a couple of these appearances, oh shit, I need to learn how to do Jason Statham. Clearly, this is going to haunt me. And the way I learned, that's why I'm saying I can teach anyone, because Jason Statham says 6 particular words in a row faster than any human being on the planet. And if you say these 6 words in a row, you too can have a flawless Jason Statham. The 6 words are, do you know what I mean? Which he says as, Joe mean. So he's reduced 6 words to 2 syllables. If I put you in that chair, you'd be dead in 2 seconds. Show me. Do you fucking know what I mean?
I love it.
So just say the name Joe and the word mean, put them together, gruff your voice a little, Joe mean, and you're done.
That's your homework assignment before next show, Gene.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. So another thing too is I knew you were always involved with the World Series of Poker and stuff like that. I know you're a big avid poker player. I didn't realize, and here's another great moniker you might want to carry is
sure.
In 2012 you finished 134th, which sounds like that's not great, but it was at like 7,000 people.
Yeah. So it was. I love poker. I also started that when I was about 10. I was staying with my cousins one summer, and the oldest one came home one night carrying a bunch of things, like he, I guess, had come from a garage sale. And so because it was nighttime and I saw him carrying these things, and I said, what's all that? And he said, well, I was just playing poker with my friends. And I said, okay, but what's all that? And he said, well, they ran out of money. He had their possessions. So I said, you need to teach me how to play this thing called poker. And I've been a little obsessed with it ever since. And then, hosting a home game, playing in other people's home games. I played a couple charity poker tournaments as a alleged celebrity and did really well. So then I thought, well, maybe tournaments are fun. And then I started playing in the World Series of Poker main event, which is probably one of the biggest marquee tournaments, just because, well, you mentioned 7,000 people show up and it's $10,000 buy-in, which, for the record, never my own money. I've always got somebody buying the hat or the patches on the shirt like a NASCAR driver. I'm not spending $10,000 to buy myself into a tournament. But I did have a hell of a deep run that you mentioned. And 134 doesn't sound that good, but yes, it was out of 6,790 players. And when you start the World Series of Poker, there's so many players that there's multiple day ones. You can't have a day one because there's not enough room for everyone. So that year, I think there were 3 day ones. This last year when I played, there were 4 day ones, but 3 day ones. And each day there's like 2,000 plus players, which means there's only 9 players at a table divided into 2,000. That's how many tables you can see when you're sitting in one of these rooms, times 3 day ones. So when I finished at 134, I could see the remaining 14 tables. That was probably one of the biggest memories of the weird oddity that I had been on, or odyssey, to get to that place where I could see the final 14 tables. And I was on the big feature table on camera, and I just knocked out Daniel Negreanu. If anyone's watching or listening who is a poker fan knows who that is. I think he's number 3 on the all-time tournament winnings list.
Wow.
And I lost in a very infamous hand of queens against queens. So again, if you know anything about Texas Hold'em, you get 2 starting cards, and when you're 1 in a million facing an opponent who has the same starting cards as you, because there are 4 of each card in the deck, in this case queens. It's a push. No one's going to win unless one of you has the Queen of Hearts, and in the middle the shared cards run out 4 different hearts, and that person gets a flush and you go home.
Yeah.
So losing queens against queens was my exit on at 134, and now once again I've shared too much information.
There's always a little bit of luck, let's face it, in hold'em style poker. I mean, that's it. And you played that hand. If you did that hand 1,000 more times, you would have played it the exact same way, because that was the right play on that hand.
Yeah, poker players will say it's a hand that plays itself. Yes.
Yeah.
So with these house games,
a few good hands. That should be the documentary about it.
Nice.
Oh, I like that one.
That's all I got.
With these house games, can me and Rob come? I mean, I'll bring snacks. Rob will let you win. Any chance?
Cool. Okay. First of all, the assumption that I would need Rob to let me win is more insulting than anything you could possibly think of. But also, no, Gene, no.
Oh, all right. I figured I'd throw it out there. But I mean, listen, if you got my contact info, if there's, I'll bring spinach dip.
Gene, this is your time. You're not getting more time ever again. So you better enjoy it right now.
Well said, Rob. Rob knows you well and already knows me quite well.
I have a little bit of intuition. It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
We had a medium on the other day, and ever since she said that she could sense that he had some intuition, he's been not shutting up about it.
It's true.
He thinks he's psychic all of a sudden. All right, let's talk about the podcasting. You've done a ton of podcasting, the Alchemy This. I'm sorry, and you just ended the run on that. Are you gonna are you done with podcasting? Do you want to continue doing it in another format? I thought the Alchemy This was really cool. It was very, very funny.
And before that, I did 10 years on Kevin Pollak's chat show, starting in 2009, when you had to explain to people what a podcast was. I think there were about 50 at the time, and they're currently 3 million.
Yeah.
So I did 10 years, 400 episodes on that. They live on YouTube still, I think. Just long form, one-on-one sort of thing, where I would talk to Elon Musk for 2.5 hours before the Model S Tesla rolled out. That's how long ago that was, in 2009, actually. And love that. I am right now recording about 17 episodes into a very, very exciting new podcast that is at present undisclosed. I forced myself to sign an NDA. It's for people who are interested in a very specific, which all podcasts in success at some point are niche, right? Watch the Twitter and the Instagram feed in about 3 months when it's announced. Okay. And
you'll be able to find that
sharing that with the world. Yeah.
Excellent. And you'll be able to find it. You don't have to say anything else specifically, but you'll be able to find it on all streaming platforms like the other ones.
Oh yeah.
All right, cool. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So let's talk about the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Or Maisel.
Maisel.
You've said it 3 different ways.
I've always pronounced that way, Rob. I've always pronounced it that way. I'm just fancy.
You're not alone. You're not alone, Gene. Don't beat yourself up.
You know what it is?
People say, my comedian friend Bobby Slayton says, "Oh, Pollak, I love you on that amazing Mrs. Matza show. That's great."
Listen, the show is hysterical. Is it true that it's kind of based on Joan Rivers?
No, it's based on no one in particular and everyone from that ilk. Amy Sherman Palladino at the helm with her husband Dan Palladino. They create the show and run it. Her father was a comedian, so she grew up in this world in the 60s, and she drew on her own life experiences as well as his. And then there were 2 or 3 comedians or female comics in the early 60s who, now and then will come into her thoughts when creating scenes or storylines, but it's never been based on any person. No.
Okay. And now season 5, I know that seems like that's going to be the final season. You'll be back for season 5, correct?
We are currently shooting it. It is in fact our final season.
That's my wife is so brokenhearted because she loves the show.
She's brokenhearted. I'll send her a photo of my pay stubs. Listen, when the show was created, Amy and Dan told us it was a 5 in success. If we were allowed 5 seasons, that's how they saw the arc, and they did in fact see where it was going and didn't want to overstay their welcome. And it is bittersweet while shooting this final season, but it's also kind of great, A, to get out on top, and B, to not overstay your welcome. Let's face it, a lot of shows kind of do that. And yeah, I mean, it's an exceptionally special show for all those reasons. If you like it, for all those reasons you like it, is gonna get old at some point. It just is,
Yeah. And you're right. Leaving it where before it gets to get stale, and it's still like where you leave them wanting more. And again, it's a fantastic show. I thought the concept was definitely unique. It was really nothing else like it. Is that what drew you to that project in the first place?
What drew me to it was, my agent called and said there's this pilot that has been airing on Amazon, that Amazon just picked up to 2 seasons. They're very excited from pilot, which is damn near, unprecedented. And the creators of the show have offered you a part in the series. So watch the pilot, and then we're going to set up a phone call so you can ask them any questions. And you watch that first episode, and you're just in there. You're just done. It was a movie in the genius of all the department heads. It had a very specific style of storytelling. It had brilliant acting, but also brilliant writing, and it's just lightning in a bottle for all the things you look for as a gun for hire, and it was just an absolute apex of opportunities. It was crystal clear when watching that pilot. And so when we got on the phone, I just said, my only request is that you don't kill my character. That's all I asked. And there was no reason to say that. I was kind of trying to make them laugh, but also saying, if we're going to do this, I need to be on the show till the end.
Yeah.
I remember you were on Mom. They took you off of Mom that way.
I was shortly before that killed on Mom, which is a great way for any character in a sitcom to leave. Yes.
Oh my God.
It's the traditional way, they say, right? So you've done so many things, and we're going to get into Lightning Lane in one moment, but you've done so many things. What would you say, out of all the films and TV shows that you've been a part of, which is the one that you think, what would you say has that deepest piece of your heart?
I think it's clear to anyone who knows anything about me or my alleged career that this moment right now, Gene, it wins.
This show or in life?
This conversation with you and Rob.
Wow.
Yeah. Kevin, I can't tell you how much I just appreciate your sense of humor, because I absolutely.
The truth is, listen, I was class clown then, and I still am, and I don't know how to do anything in life without poking a little fun at it while it's happening. And that's how I am on set to this day. Rob Reiner 30 years ago, A Few Good Men is 30 years old this year. I remember on set very early in my career, he said, "Look, if we're not having fun, there's no point in doing any of this."
Absolutely.
And so in terms of what's the most or best, or I really have been too lucky to kind of pinpoint any singular job, because every step of the way, there's like between A Few Good Men, Usual Suspects, Casino, Avalon, even Willow, at that point in my life as a stand-up comedian, to end up in this Ron Howard directed, George Lucas produced film, it was just redonkulous, truly. Spoiler alert, I may or may not be in one episode of the new Disney Plus TV series called Willow.
I was curious.
I was gonna say that too, but I figured. Okay.
Yeah, I signed an NDA, so of course I can tell you. No, they put me in the last 5 seconds of the trailer, so it's on them. They let the cat out of the bag. Pun intended, if you know my character from the movie. But yes, I do show up in an episode of the TV series. So there have been these seminal jobs over the years that just changed everything, and it's very, I'm well aware and grateful how rare it is to have just one, let alone multiple. And then truly in this third act of my life, fucking Marvelous Mrs. Maisel has been the most exceptional work experience, because it's gone on for 5 years or 6 with the sweet pandemic. Yeah, I mean, that wins. It's just been a ridiculous. I mean, we are a love fest cast and crew. There's not one stinker in the bunch, and that is impossible, as alchemy goes. And I'm just crazy grateful.
I was going to say that too. It seems like there's a great chemistry with that cast, and the cast. I mean, Tony Shalhoub is like incomparable. I mean, the cast on there, Rachel Brosnahan. I mean, everybody on there is just they got such a great group of people together, and it's nice to hear those stories of like everybody really what it looks like of everybody how they can go get along. They really do. Everybody has that great chemistry. That's nice to hear.
I can tell you, it's almost never. There's always
I can imagine.
There's always somebody who, and it's usually driven just by insecurity, who thinks they're supposed to act like a big shot because that's what it is supposed to or what's expected from them, and they just come off as a jerk. And we don't have any of those. It's great.
We deal with it right now. Patty Puddles is ours. So
that's just what I say to you when we're alone.
All right. So we don't have obviously. I'm assuming because you're filming now. There's no date for Mrs. Maisel number 5, season 5, right?
There's no date.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to that. I know that's gonna be soon. Well, not soon, but soon enough. And all right, so you know what? We have a game called Lightning Lane. We'd like to play it. We're gonna go back and forth with 10 rapid fire questions.
Gene, so you don't have a conniption. I think this is how we should do Lightning Lane today. You pick the character that you would like Kevin to answer as. So he has a second to think about it, and I'll ask the question.
Fair enough. Let's do it.
Is that a good way to do it?
Is that cool? Mr.
Yeah,
Powell?
whatever you guys want to do.
All right,
wait till you see this graphic we have for Lightning Lane. You're gonna probably want to hire us for other CGI stuff. Patty, roll the clip.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, you definitely want to hire all of you.
Thank you. Tell Soderbergh we're in. We'll do it for free, just for fun.
Okay.
For fun. All right. Okay. Rob, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Kevin, you ready?
Oh yeah.
All right. Let's do Albert Brooks.
Favorite movie.
Any of your fans know who that is, by the way?
Well, yeah, we have a Disney. We have a Disney-based show here, so even if it's as Marlin from Finding Nemo, they know who Albert Brooks is.
Nemo. Okay, buddy. What are your questions? Let's go.
All right. Favorite movie
of all time?
All time.
Jesus, Mr. Magoo's A Christmas Carol. Next.
Peter Falk.
Last song Peter Falk listened to.
Oh boy, let me think about that one. It was probably Elton John's Mad Man Across the Water.
Wow, that's a great song too.
The eyes.
Wow, go ahead. Go ahead.
Al Pacino.
Last show that Al Pacino binge watched.
Oh, that's easy. That's an easy one for me to answer because it stays with me. I can't get out of my head. No matter what I do, I go over there, I sit here, it doesn't matter. I go downstairs. I can't stop thinking about that Squid Game. I don't understand what was happening, but I can't get out of my
head. Alan Arkin.
Oh, the number one thing on Alan Arkin's bucket list.
Okay, first of all, I don't appreciate the term bucket list. How is that a place to put your fantasies and dreams? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why is it in a bucket?
So good. It's so good.
Paul Reiser.
Paul Reiser. Any animal in the world as a pet for Paul Reiser.
First of all, the thing is this. I would love to have just a kangaroo. I don't care what happens to it. It's going to be safe. It's going to be secure. It's going to be in my backyard. And I'm going to put things in its pouch. I don't care.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd's biggest pet peeve.
Marty. Pet peeve. Well-timed piano.
Go ahead,
Johnny Carson.
All right.
Johnny Carson's favorite late night snack.
Well, that's easy because, a lot of people will go for either sweet or savory. I like to combine the two. So it's a chocolate-covered pretzel, if you will. Something in that vein, sweet and savory, late at night, just so I cannot sleep.
Perfect. That's perfect.
All right. Liam Neeson.
If Liam Neeson could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Bananas.
It's exactly how he would say it. That's why I'm sure that's what made you laugh. Like, I've never heard him say it, but that's how he would say it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Christopher Walken.
What is one hobby or interest we would be surprised Christopher Walken had?
Well, the truth is, everyone is probably fairly aware that I like to cook anytime in the kitchen. I'm happy to be there. But I guess beef stew, it seems like such a straightforward dish. But for me, it's a cornucopia of thoughts and ideas that go into that pot. Make it exciting.
Cornucopia. Excellent use of cornucopia.
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro's favorite food.
That would be sausage and peppers. Yes, it would. It would be sausage and peppers. Oh, yes.
William Shatner.
That was it. That was the last question. We're still going?
Wait, was that 10?
Can't believe we're out of
10.
questions.
It was 10, man. We did it.
Yeah, congratulations, gentlemen. The 52 minutes and 3 seconds as you have the live ticking clock going by is just a gentle reminder of whatever photos you thought you had of me with barnyard animals in order to get me to do this. They clearly no longer exist.
Well, we promised to delete those, so you're good. Don't worry.
Yep.
We've come through all our promises. I do have one bonus question. Go ahead. One bonus question, but this one we want is Kevin Pollak. The best piece of advice you've ever received and who gave it to you?
Again, it's the difficulty when you put the word best on it. If you had said, what is a good piece of advice someone gave you, I could probably come up with a lot easier, but it's the searching for the number one choice that's always impossible. So I'll just
Gene likes to do that to people. He
I'll
likes to
just
talk
give you
in
a-
extremes.
Yeah, I'll just give you a good one. As I mentioned, find a good mentor, right? So on A Few Good Men, the Chicago-based or original Chicago-born pride of that great city, J.T. Walsh, in A Few Good Men, he plays Markinson, Nicholson's right hand, who, spoiler alert, 30 years later, shoots himself in the head. He was just this brilliant Chicago actor, theater, but also great Mammoth work, and one of the all-time great character actors. So I confessed to him in his trailer while working on A Few Good Men that I was a poser. This is the movie I'm going to be found out on, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm in over my head. I've had no formal training. I'm surrounded by movie stars. I'm completely and utterly fucked. And he said, I've been watching you, and the truth is, you're already doing a style of acting, a technique of acting that people will train for, in some cases, their whole lives. And that style of technique is called less is more. And if you can add the other second half of that technique, you're going to be in good hands. You're going to be in good shape. And the full term is less is more, nothing is best. If you can do nothing in a scene and be interesting and compelling to watch, then you win. So I took that advice to heart, and it helped me because I was so afraid of being caught, being found out, that by doing less, I was never going to get caught acting. And as an audience watching anything, even if it's stand-up comedy or music, there's nothing worse than a musician showing me how genius they are or how talented they are. When the greatest compliment you can ever give is you made it look easy, you made it look effortless. Well, that's all true in acting and stand-up too. In stand-up, you got 5 seconds to relax the audience's sphincter, then they know they're in good hands. So whatever you open with, just make sure it's just for them that they're going to be in good hands. So whatever the art form is, just try to do less. Just do less. Work harder than everyone else. And then when you have an audience, do less.
All right. I love it.
See, Gene, do less.
Yep.
I do too much. I do the most sometimes, and that's maybe the problem. Mr. Pollak, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. Honestly, I mean, if you couldn't tell, it's been an honor for me. So
everyone can tell, Gene.
we all know it was your pleasure, Gene. We knew
it was my pleasure for sure.
Kevin, thank you for giving me this hour that I can never let him live down for the rest of our life. So
I feel like the gift here was more to Rob than you, Gene, and I'm sorry about that.
It happens. I mean, I'm learning to deal with it, but listen, honestly, all kidding aside, super pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, for giving us some time. I appreciate it. I really do. I'm excited about season 5.
You're both very welcome. And I can't believe we still got in under an hour. So I'm going to say goodbye.
Yes. And remember, we're free for that poker game. Just let me know. We're there.
Leave a look, Kevin. Run while you can. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Guys, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, me and Piano Rob will wrap it up. Thank you so
much. Cute. Oh, Winnie the Cute. Rawr, Jurassic Cute. You're not trash. You're cute. This is Sammy. Sammy loves Disney ears. She loves ears so much, she makes her own. Yeah, 3D ears. Want to see her do it? Let's check it out. Here she's making bows. Here she also makes ears. And sometimes she makes ears with bows. Any kind you want. People have been seeing her with her ears and they're saying, hey, can I get me some ears? Pow, yeah, you can. Here you go. Now Sammy's making ears for any occasions. Ears for dogs, ears for spooky stuff, you name it. Ears for any occasion. And it's all happening at JSA Creations. JSA Creations. Just ask for Sammy.
Woo!
Gene!
What a day, man. What a
Gene,
day.
That I have never seen you like that, and I can't ignore it. I can't ignore it. It was there.
Let's call it what it is. Kevin Pollak is a phenomenal comedic actor, a phenomenal stand-up comedian, impressionist, dramatic actor. He's as good as it gets in anything he does.
I thought one of the very attractive females at some point we've had on the show would have gotten to you, but no, it was Kevin Pollak did it, and I love it.
Kevin Pollak did it. Kevin Pollak got me flustered. Again, I do my best to get into a mode where I don't get like that. Is whenever we've had a bunch of cool names on the show, a bunch of big names on the show, and I've always done, kept it professional. Like I said, Kevin Pollak, man, I've watched it. Like I remember watching the 1991 special on HBO.
We know, Gene. We know.
So a big fan for the longest time. Everybody right now, right? Yeah.
Now. We know. I was just. It was nice. It's nice. It's nice to see to get, we all get like that with something, but we're all human, man. We're all human.
But yeah, so let's do a little bit of thank yous. Give me some thank you, ride out thank you music. Guys, we want to thank producer Patty Puddles. We want to thank our mods, the best in the business. They keep the chat fun, friendly, safe. We want to thank the chat for coming here, hanging out with us, and enjoying this interview. And we also want to thank all the subscribers. Guys, we're super blessed. You guys have been so supportive of us, and we're going to keep doing it as long as you guys keep showing up. And let's thank the incomparable, phenomenal, legendary Kevin Pollak. Guys, make sure you go stay tuned for that Mrs. Maisel season 5 coming out very, very soon.
No more alliteration titles for you. That's what I think it is. It can't be an alliteration.
I was being fancy missing myself. But anyway, so guys, last thing before we get out of here, make sure you go check out the Facebook for Piano Rob. Find out where he's playing when you come to town. You can go see him, and you can go visit him. Maybe you can give him the Kevin Pollak treatment like I did to Piano Rob. Fanboy a little bit, guys. And then go check out the TikToks. Go check out the Reels. He does a fantastic job over there. And with that, let's wrap it up. Guys, have a great today, a better tomorrow, and we will see you next time.